So I confess that I'm a bad geek because I actually have had a hard time getting into Stardew Valley.
Ah, okay. So I love this game because it is really kind of low stakes a little bit.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, you can die and things like that, and it's all that exists. But um, the oh, I need a name in here. One second.
Oh,
There
identity.
we go. Okay, I exist in here now.
Welcome.
Yeah. The game only resets on um, on the end of the day. So
Hmm.
we logged in here earlier to check it out.
Yeah.
And if you'll notice,
So,
everything
yeah.
is back to where it
Yeah,
was.
yeah. And it's 7 a.m. again.
It is indeed 7 a.m. again. So it resets at the end of the day, and the if you ever played Farmville back in the day, and that
Mhm.
probably dates me a little bit,
That was for the
uh,
Super Nintendo?
what,
Or
can you say that again?
that was for the Super Nintendo?
No, no, that was that was a Facebook game back when
Oh,
Facebook
okay.
games were a thing. Um, but it's just a really fun, relaxing game
Hmm.
that has a lot of different things in it. So
Hmm.
you don't have to do any one thing. Pretty much the only thing you need to do is you need to be able to plant enough food to eat. And outside of that, the game is up to you, right? There's certain quests that you complete, and you can see that little uh,
Oh,
journal icon
yeah,
up
yeah,
there in the top
yeah.
corner.
I see that there.
Yeah, but really, there's not a whole lot other than
Okay.
we're going to be planting, and it's going to want us to do different things in different seasons, and the seasons change as we go through the game, and you can do different things in different seasons.
Okay.
Uh, but you can do different roles, so um, you can be a somebody who does a lot of combat. You can be somebody who does a lot of
Okay.
farming. You can do fishing.
Though
All sorts.
I've heard things about the fishing in this game that some people find it very stressful, but yeah, it's kind of it's a sandbox game. That sounds like.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's also
And so
interesting.
right
Oh, sorry. Yeah, go for it.
right now I'm just hoeing some crop or
Oh,
hoeing an area for the crops.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Just in terms of like careers, and on the topic of like career selection, it's interesting. Like when you start off the game, you're like, the kind of the framing narrative here, if I understand it, is that your grandfather has left you this farm in the hopes that you'll kind of restore the old ways. It's kind of like getting it working
Exactly.
again. But I think you start off as in like a cubicle, and it's like it really plays up that like the cubicle life is not all it's cut out to be.
That's exactly it. And so as you go through the game as well, there's of course the evil corporation that you used to work for.
Yeah, it's
Um,
Jojo Mart in this game. Yeah,
yeah, and they exist in town as well, and so
yeah.
you can join them if you'd like,
the, the
or I suppose join them again.
the dark side run through. Uh-huh.
Yes.
Yeah. And, let's see. Can you get those tree roots?
Yeah.
Oh, wasn't
Um,
strong enough. No, it
Yeah,
stumped me.
you'll need to get a better axe. So you sort of plant your seeds, and then you use the watering can to water them. Um, but yeah, so I'm over in current experiential learning, and so when you're like, oh well, what game would work? This one kind of works really well because it's you get a lot of choice. You get to really figure out how you're going to do it. There's certain ways that are easier to play the game. Um, and there are certain things that as you go through the game, you'll get better at. But you can always decide later on that, you know what, I'd like to try a different method. I'd like to go through the rest of this game differently.
Yeah, I know that's very apt. I guess it's probably like a cliche now to be like, oh, unlike your parents' day, people have a bajillion careers in their life. So
Um, and I mean,
flexibilities. Yeah.
at the same time, though, like that was something that we were saying um, for the last over 20 years, talking about how, oh, well, it's no longer a um, a world where you go through in one career. But we've been saying that long enough that it was said to me when I was in high school,
Oh,
right?
okay. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
this is not a new thing.
Yeah.
Um, But I think we're to the point now where everybody is used to that as sort of the normal,
Okay.
right?
Yeah. I've gotten slow or something all of a sudden. Am I?
Oh, your energy should be quite low by now. You have you've got a little energy bar in the bottom right-hand corner.
Oh, I see it. Yeah. No, I'm exhausted. Okay, that's relatable.
Yeah. So what you can do at any point, you can actually here. Why don't we do that? We'll head back, and you can head inside and go to bed, and that'll bring you to the next day.
At 1:20 p.m. Yeah, that's relatable too.
Yep.
Oop. Alrighty. Okay, I burned through that, I guess. Cutting down trees.
Yeah, that usually happens in the first couple days. Because you don't have anything that'll restore your energy yet. And so you should have something in the mailbox by now.
Yeah, let's see. Hello there. Just got back from a fishing trip. You should come down to the beach sometime. I've got something for ya. Willie.
So let's water the plants, and then we can head over to the village.
Sounds good.
And see the other thing that I like about this game.
Alrighty, sounds good. So yeah, so like, what sort of things does career development do? So like, how might students actually like interact with you? What kind of things can they get help with there?
Yeah. So the biggest thing that we work on with students on is career planning. So by career planning, what we mean, I'm just going to add one last seed in here that I picked up.
Oh, yeah.
That is sort of all of the stuff around figuring out what you are wanting to do. So that's life planning. That is, we can pick some more plants here if you like. That is getting things ready for grad school. That is figuring out if you're in the right program. All sorts of things like that. And then we also work with students on job applications.
Okay, good stuff.
Preparing resumes, and you'll see up here that you'll see the job board.
There it is. All right, there's some all folks. Lewis's birthday, Vincent's birthday, egg festival, flower dance, good stuff.
Yeah. So that's the other big thing that we work on is we help students with figuring out how to update resumes and how to build resumes.
Okay.
I think we're going to go down to the beach and get our fishing rod.
Yeah, I think down this way, yeah. Yeah, okay, good stuff.
So, yeah, and then we also help students with prepping for interviews and all sorts of different things.
Good, because you tend to need them. I don't know about, you, but like I've always found... Cutscene.
Oh, you got a cutscene.
Yep. Old man at the pier. Ahoy there, son. Heard there was a newcomer in town. Good to finally meet ya. I'm still trying to unwind from a month out on the salty seas. It was a big haul. I sold a lot of good fish. Finally saved enough to buy me a new rod. Here, I want to have me old fishing rod. It's important to me that the art of fishing stays alive, and maybe you'll buy something from the shop once in a while too. Do-do-do-do! Fishing rod achieved. A bamboo pole. There we go. Oh. Now he's looking wistfully out to sea. There's good water here in the valley, all kinds of fish. Oh yeah, my shop's back open now, so come if you need supplies. I'll also buy anything you catch. If it smells, it sells. That's what me old pappy used to say anyway. It is kind of like what narrative there is seems to really harken back to like a sense that we've lost something and,
It is. That's a lot of the game. Now, you can do some fishing right now. My inventory is full, so you don't get a bigger backpack for a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah. So a lot of the work that I do with students is primarily around that career development work, the resume review, interview prep work, figuring out how to do job searching, things like that. And then depending on other things that might be showing up in classrooms that students are in and doing guest lecturing, or I might be running workshops as part of different groups. Like we work with the PACE group quite
Oh, yeah.
frequently
Yeah, yeah.
and other groups. Yeah,
I've done some work with
doing
them.
workshops with them. And it just kind of depends on. Yeah, let's head back to the farm and we can sell these dandelions that we picked
Oh,
up.
okay, good stuff.
Um, and if you'd like, you can even
Oh,
pick
no.
up some of these
No,
seashells.
I got a fish. So I cannot. I am now full too.
Ah,
I guess that's why
okay.
you have the container by your farm. But yeah, so yeah, because I
Yeah.
don't know about you, but I've always found like I'm better at CVs than I am resumes because I struggle with brevity and sorting out
Yep.
what other people think is important.
Yeah. So the resume and the cover letter are interesting genres, and so um, you'll often hear me talk about these with uh, rhetoric type terms because resumes and cover letters and CVs and even portfolios all have a same concept behind them in that they're there so that you can convince somebody else that something you're wanting to do or it's something that you're trying to convince somebody else to do what you want. And usually what you want them to do is to get you in and interview you. Right? I'm actually just going to sell all of this stuff right now because I don't have a lot of space in my inventory right now.
Where do you sell things?
You just drop it in the box,
Oh,
and
the
then
box sells them.
it'll all get picked up at the end of the day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good then.
Yeah. And then we should be able to go into building by this point, I think. Or do we need to first under crafting? Oh, we could have crafted things instead of selling them, but
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Chest, gate, wooden fence.
Right. So I should go see if I can grab that. You can take the last thing you sold back. So I'm gonna take the wood that I put in there by accident back.
All right. Well, I get the dandelion. I don't really have anything that needs that, so I'm gonna say
Yeah.
it's gone now.
Okay, that's okay. And I'm gonna see if I can go and chop up some wood. And if you notice, because you ran out of energy yesterday,
Yeah, yeah.
you didn't have as much energy today.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm just gonna chop some wood and see if I can get to
Yeah.
the 50 that we need for a chest so that we can store stuff.
Okay. Oof. Yeah, I guess that's also the thing about like the job search. It takes a lot of energy, and like you have to pace yourself.
It does, and students are often surprised when I talk about just how many places that they need to interview for or need to apply to in order to get interviews. And right now, it is sort of the equivalent of a job seekers market in a lot of industries, but not all. But the only thing you really have control over is you sending out those resumes and doing the networking, and those are the things that you can control.
Yeah.
And if you focus too much on the things that you can't control,
It'll drive you bonkers.
you're going to have a really bad day.
Yeah. Oh, that's very, very relatable. Like I'm quite happy here at TRU, but before I applied to over 300 jobs over like since 2019. Like it can take a lot of doing.
Yeah, so if you access, are you able to open my chest?
Yep.
And do you see my things in it?
Yep.
Okay.
Bamboo pole, hoe, copper ore.
Neat. Okay, that's awesome. So you can toss whatever you want in there. I'm just keeping the tools that I know that I'm going to need for cleaning up the environment here. And that'll get us a little bit more space.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Yeah, and so when you're applying for jobs, often what you need to do is see it as getting as many out there as you can, but you can't just mass mail out resumes equivalent, right?
Yeah.
You actually need to focus it on what the employer is looking for. And the employer is telling you exactly what they're looking for, right? They've got their job posting basically is a request for proposals.
Okay, yeah.
And so if you think about it from that perspective, then the cover letter makes a lot more sense because the cover letter is you telling them, hey, I read your call for proposals and I actually have those skills. And these are the specific ones and maybe a couple things about the specifics about it. And the CV serves a similar thing, except that you're not really tailoring a CV as much as you do a resume, because a resume you only get 2 pages.
Yeah. At most.
Yeah, and most CVs are going to be, well, really long. I don't even know how long mine is.
Yeah.
Yours is probably 8 pages or something.
Yeah. I mean, depending on how I modify it, between 8 and 12. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I am out of energy,
Yeah.
so I'm going to
Time
head...
to go.
Yep.
Doop. Because yeah, I was gonna. Oh, I'm not gonna water the door. I'm trying to open the door. There we go. Hey, roop. And night. Yeah, so that's the thing, and I'm curious. Like, I don't know, like without I know it's individual to all students, but I've had a range of experiences when I've sought career advising at various institutions I've been at. I've been at several, and they can range from like really insightful to like what color is your ideal job in like like is it blue or indigo or red? And I've never found that particular approach to career counseling to be helpful. I know there's a lot of different approaches to it.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I've got... Clint is talking to me because I picked up some ore, so I'm just going to skip through that quickly.
No worries.
He's just telling you that you can now build a furnace here.
Oh, good stuff.
Yeah.
And we just got to learn about a backpack.
Yeah, so the different things that you can... Sorry, I forgot how much he talks early on in the game. Okay.
No worries, there you are.
Sorry about that.
No
yeah, so what we do is we do a lot of qualitative career assessment work with people. And so what that means is we have a lot of very difficult questions for students to ask students, where they have to try and figure out, okay, well, what then do you care about doing, right? So this day, by the way, is raining, so we can actually just head into town, and you got the letter asking you to come down to Pierre's.
Yeah, for a backpack.
Yeah. And that's going to be very helpful.
Good stuff. A good backpack does make a difference. I have a hiking backpack that I mostly use for getting groceries. Because I'm a ground walker.
Yep.
There we go. Let's see. Oh, it's over there.
Oh, closed on Wednesdays. Apparently we can't go to Pierre's today. Why don't we head up north and we can go into the mine?
Alrighty. Sure. Yeah. I feel like when you go to the mine, I do know like if you pass out in the mine, you just wake up in your bed with a doctor's bill, as I understand it.
Oh, actually, let's go into here.
Pelican
it's
Town?
still locked. We don't get
Hall.
access to that yet.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I write the spirits in there.
Yeah, I love them.
Again, like I haven't played a lot of Stardew Valley, but it's just it's such a force in kind of the zeitgeist that I know a fair bit about it, just from osmosis.
There's a lot of inspiration from Studio Ghibli stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah, okay, yeah, like the Kodamas, like.
Yeah. Yeah, and so here you can buy things, or you can, including recipes, or you can upgrade your cabin, and then you can also talk to people. You can get to know your neighbors, and as you get to know them, and you can bring people gifts if you'd like, or you can, you usually can't enter people's houses too far until you get to know them. So you have to build.
You're not good enough friends with Maru to enter her bedroom, and like that's fair. Hello, stranger. I'm in your space.
Yeah. Exactly. So if you actually open up your menu and then click on the heart, you'll see the social
stats. There we go. Robin, Lewis, Willie, question marks.
Yeah, and so so you can go up and talk to people, and then you can also give them gifts, and different people like different things.
Yeah.
And then if you also notice, some of them have the last 2 hearts grayed out. And every time you see that, you'll also see that it says single beside it.
Oh, okay, so there's also a dating sim quality.
It is, in fact, also a dating sim, yes.
Cool.
So it lets you do sort of a lot of different things. But we're actually going to continue on over to the mine now that we've talked to them. Yeah, make sure you talk to them both before we exit.
Okay, I didn't talk to the fellow over here. Greetings, I'm Demetrius, local scientist and father. Thanks for introducing yourself.
So everybody has a different job in town, and sometimes it'll impact what you do, and sometimes it won't. But regardless, a large part of this game is getting to know all of the different people and seeing how you can help the community and seeing what you can do to be beneficial to the community as a whole.
Yeah.
So if you see the mine isn't open yet,
Okay. Yeah.
so we won't be able to do that yet. But it looks like one of the other people is over here, and we can go talk to him.
Yeah. It's a very U-social game. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, looks like he is headed into his tent for the day.
It's raining, I guess. Makes sense.
Yep. So,
A
and
stranger,
I'm actually going
hello.
to. I'm going to give him a horseradish.
Oh, good stuff.
So if you've got a flower, you could give it to them or anything like that.
I don't want to eat the. No, I don't want to eat the. Oh, I just ate the daffodil. All right, well, let's just try gifting it. There we go. This is a great gift. Thank you. I'm glad. They're delicious.
Yep. And you get to learn what different people are looking for, and different things will open up as you go through the year.
Yeah.
So where we are right now is actually north of our farm.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah. One of the things you talked about, like, it's not just about getting sending resumes out there. There's also like informational interviews.
Yeah,
I know I did a lot of those. In fact, like the first job after my library degree that I got was purely from an informational interview.
Yes. So they're a huge part of networking, and I know that a lot of people hate the term networking, but it really is accurate, right? That this isn't about going out and meeting people with the express purpose of finding a job. It's about going out and finding out more about your industry. And that's a really important part of the whole process of, especially for students, to learn what it's like on the inside within an industry, because a lot of our faculty come from different industries, but most of them have been away from those industries for a couple of years, and things
and a lot
change.
can change quickly. Yeah, even within libraries and library school, like, and academia. I mean, I feel like a lot of my professors got their jobs in the '80s and didn't really know what the professional landscape was like.
Yeah,
I was going through.
And so that's an important thing to remember, is that these things change very quickly, and that's okay, right? It's not a bad thing that these things all change. You just need to know that you have to go out and find out more, right? And the best way of doing that is those informational interviews. And the way that you do them is that they're quite literally, you call someone up and you say, hey, can we talk about what you do?
Yeah.
I'm a student at TRU, I'm in this program, and I was wondering if I could learn more about what you do.
Yeah.
And it's a common convention, right? So this is a social convention that most people are used to.
Yeah.
And if they have time,
you speak to me. Yeah.
Exactly, right. Yeah. And so if they have time, they will say, yeah, of course I'll be able to meet with you. That'll be great. And they'll book a time. Often, these days, a lot of them are online.
Yeah. One thing I found that was particularly helpful for like chaining them together was near the end of the informational interview, asking like, well, thanking them for their time and their insights, and also just saying like, is there like one or two other people you might suggest that I get in touch with? That way you can potentially get a chain of different requests, and it's a lot easier reaching out to someone and they're like, oh, I was speaking to so-and-so the other day, they suggested that you might be interested in talking to me about X, Y, or Z. It's also a good way of kind of like connecting a whole bunch of informational interviews together to get a broader sense of professional landscape.
Oh, very, very much. That's a great question to ask at the end. And another one is, what are you reading right now to learn more about the industry yourself? Because that's how you'll find out about what is being used commonly as things to be read in that industry. And it's wildly different depending on the industry or even the area of the industry. And so you get access to a lot more information there.
Yeah.
And the whole point here has absolutely nothing to do with actually getting that interview at that point, or getting a job interview at that point.
Yeah.
But rather, it's putting it out there and learning more about the industry, and then being able to later on, perhaps if you're applying for a job that they work at, when your name comes across their desk, they'll think, oh, hey, that was that great person that I met with, and they wanted to learn more about what we're up to. They were nice. I'd like to meet with them again.
Yeah. definitely a thing. And I don't know about like all fields, but I know in librarianship it was also helpful to join professional organizations, which often have student rates and things. And, I don't know. I know
Yes.
that's not the case for every industry.
No, but it is there for a lot. And like in IT, there'll be networking events that are hosted by different companies, so that people can meet each other. Or there might be things built around specific types of programming, or those kinds of events that are more social than that you can go out and attend. All sorts of different things that you can do. So I'm actually going to build a maple. Some maple trees down here and
cool.
plant these. I can't remember how far the trees have to be away from each other.
Spacing is important when you're planting seeds.
Yeah. But just to get those out, and I've got some acorns as well, because this is going to give us a renewable source of wood, and that's going to be really important later on in the game.
Renewable resources.
But I am about out of energy, and it is getting towards the evening.
That's true. Like I think is it 1 or 2 o'clock? You just kind of pass out.
Yeah, I think it's 2 o'clock. You start at after midnight. You start getting time where you won't be as rested the next day, like you had on that second day.
Yeah.
But more importantly, at 2 o'clock, you wake up the next day with the doctor in your farm.
Yeah. You know, part of this is a moral lesson about the importance of sleep, which is someone who struggles with sleep is terrifying. But yeah, no. So yeah, so there's so many things you can do. I don't know about you, but like I know when I was job hunting, it's very easy to be demoralized and dispirited. But like, oh, cool. But keeping in mind the things you do have control over, as you said, is incredibly helpful. And
exactly. And when you think of it that way, that there are things that you can control, and those are the things that you need to work on, right? And so if you're in the middle of your major job application, you're probably going to be applying for a lot of jobs, right? You're not applying for like 1 or 2 jobs. You're likely going to be applying for like 10 jobs in a week.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of work, because it takes a solid hour or 2 to get a good resume and cover letter update done.
Yeah. And personalizing it to the individual job and all that.
Yeah. And researching the job to see if they have if there's anybody who works at that job that you've met before, or seeing if you can actually send. Oh, they open at 9 a.m. So why don't we go around town and see if there's anybody walking around town?
Sure. No,
you know, I bet the mayor's house is probably going to be open.
You can tell it's a small town.
Nope. No, nobody's open. So yeah, you can fish from the rivers or the lakes or the ocean, and you get different things at each of them.
Oof. Alrighty.
And there's a library that's over, a library and museum. That is open already. That's pretty awesome.
All right. Well, yeah, I'll stop fishing around then.
No, you can do some fishing, and then so when you're applying for the library's over here.
Good stuff.
Important thing to know.
Indeed.
And so when you're applying for jobs, you have to really tailor the resume and the cover letter into each company and industry, and it's often useful to try and use similar language to what they use in the job posting. Maybe not directly copied. Some people like to directly copy the language over. I usually say that's not the best. This is the library. You as you go through, every time you see one of those things on the ground where it's the little waving twigs on the ground, if you've got your hoe, I'll see if I can find one.
Okay. So I don't know if this is a question you can answer, but I've heard increasingly that like companies are using like algorithmic screening processes, and that's why people have started really focusing on those keywords. Is that an urban myth, or how much is that actually a concern?
So, kind of.
Okay.
So what you're talking about is what's called an applicant tracking system. And at its absolute most basic, here's Jojo Mart. At its most basic is you can buy things here, but they're never quite as good quality as the ones bought at the main store. So the applicant tracking system, at its most basic, is a database. And what they're doing
Mm-hmm.
is it's taking the resume that you've uploaded
Mm-hmm.
and putting it into the database and extracting some basic information from the resume,
Mm-hmm.
usually name and contact information.
Okay.
And that's the basic version. And then above that, you get ones that will also search for keywords.
Okay.
Um, and when you've got that ability to have it search for keywords, then it's a little bit better, or sort of general things about that. But the more advanced versions will actually look at how much experience you have.
Mm-hmm.
So we should be able to head over to the
Oh yeah.
appears now. How much experience that you have in certain roles, and it'll be able to extract that from it.
Okay.
And then there's other versions as well that use AI to different extents, but essentially that's what it is.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. So we're currently in the one where we're using a unified
Shared money.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
what you should do is buy. You're out of space, so I'll buy some things. I'm gonna buy
Okay.
3 bean plants and
Sure.
2 cauliflower and 2 potato, just so we can have some more stuff in the ground. And we've got more people that we can
Yeah,
go talk
notice
to.
they're all coming out of the woodwork now.
Yep.
Oh, hair envy. Unexpected news. Many conversation. Oh, I've heard of Elliot. I know many people have swooned over Elliot.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Oh my, good stuff. So yeah, okay, interesting.
Yeah, and so that's what the applicant tracking system is. Oh, here is the mayor, so we should probably talk to him.
So how was your first night in the old cottage? Oh, yeah. Oop.
Yeah.
Let's see.
And so some people are worried about it, but really it is just a way of speeding up the process for HR people.
Okay.
And there are some things to know about it though, is that when you're using that, when you're using an applicant tracking system, some of them aren't great.
What? Algorithms can be fallible?
I know, right? And so when you're looking at it from that perspective, you need to do things like making sure that the resume is as readable as possible. So there's a lot of stuff that we tell people not to use anymore. So that's going to be things like tables and columns and putting anything in a header or footer.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah, just because they don't do a great job of reading those. So you don't need to water the trees.
Okay.
Here, let's chop some more trees down actually and clear some more of the farm.
Boom, 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 boom. Very musical. Yeah. Oh. Yeah, this brings me back. I have a friend who's just trying to start off making his own farm. Like he got some property, but does almost everything for it himself, and is actually helping him clear land. That literally, actually, like clear land there back over the summer. So I know how hard that can be. Putting up deer fences and stuff because the deers eat everything, like they do here. That's across the continent, it seems. Yeah, but that can be quite different in terms of like even industries too, like the small time independent farmer versus like the farming dynasties. I don't know exactly where your farming experience is, but like in parts of Atlantic Canada, it's kind of like Stardew Valley meets Games of Thrones, like the way that like the farming families are like they have history and they have politics, and it's like a thing.
Yes. I think that's the case pretty much everywhere that farmers have been established for a long time as you begin getting that. Okay, I am out of energy.
Yeah, I'm getting low myself. Yoink.
So I think the next time we get a rainy day, which hopefully will be the next day or two, we can head over to the ocean and do some more fishing.
Yeah.
Although I think maybe our seeds are pretty close to being harvestable. I'm not sure.
All right, good night. I can see why this is entertaining as a 2-player game too. Level 1 foraging, axe proficiency. Wild seeds. New crafting recipe, field snack. Your progress. Let's see. Yeah. Ooh, that sounds like
even better.
rain.
It is a rainy day.
I got a letter. That's how you know it's fantasy. To our Jojo Mart customers, our team members have removed the landslide caused by our drilling operation near the mountain lake. I'd like to remind you that our drilling operation is entirely legal, pursuant to INIT L61091 Jojico Amendment. Responsible stewardship of the local environment is our top priority. We apologize for any inconvenience this accident may have caused. As always, we value and your continued support and patronage. So that's one
I
thing.
love that there's
yeah,
it's legal pursuant to a legal code that is literally named after them.
Yeah, I mean,
okay. You can harvest your plants, by the way.
Good stuff. Parsnips.
Yeah, and then you just put them in that box, and then we're gonna go fishing.
Sounds good. I'm noticing that the place I hoe doesn't stay hoed.
Yes, it only stays hoed if you've got something planted there.
Okay. Well, for right now, I guess. Let's just... I don't eat. I'm still... There we go. All right.
There we go.
That's the one thing I honestly did struggle with, like that line between, like, writing in the genre and feeling fake when writing job applications. And, like, they say, oh, let your personality shine. But, I mean, some of us are neurodivergent, and that means something different. Yeah.
And a lot of it, so... as a fellow neurodivergent person, something that works really well for me is to think of it more like an essay, where the point is to be convincing. And so you're telling the truth, and you're giving them... Oh, here we go. Here's one of the little wormy thingies.
Oh.
So if you've got your hoe out... Oh, I put my hoe away by accident. But if you've got a hoe, use it on that.
Oh,
it's a book.
Cool.
There we go. So you can bring that... Yeah, you can bring that back to
This is exactly how the library gets all of our holdings. We dig for them in the dirt.
Yep.
Cool.
Okay, so I'm going to head over and do some fishing now.
Sure.
I'm sorry, and I've lost... Oh, yes. That your goal is to talk to them about who you are in relation to their job, to the job posting they have written. Because they've told you what they're looking for, and assuming you're applying for jobs that you actually qualify for, then what you're going to be doing is you're going to be writing about why you fit it.
Yeah.
So early on in this game, fishing is a great way of getting some of the money you need to be able to buy seeds.
Okay. There we go. Got it.
Yeah.
Sardine.
Yes. And so a lot of the time what I recommend is that students use like a summary section at the top of their resume, so that they can adjust that based on the job posting and not need to make massive changes across the whole resume.
Okay.
And then that way they focus their changes on the cover letter. So the cover letter then actually becomes like a real letter, because you were writing to the person who is hiring. Resumes do get run through an applicant tracking system, and a lot of companies are using really high-end applicant tracking systems. TRU doesn't, but a lot of high-end applicant tracking systems that do all sorts of cool stuff about finding out how much experience they have or trying to line people up with the postings. But cover letters are rarely a core part of that. The cover letter is going to be used by an actual human being.
Okay.
So something that I was talking about the other day about the new AI marked essays that people are doing is that if the point of an essay is to convince somebody of something, and it's being graded by an AI, then it's not an essay, because you can't convince the AI of anything.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, it's as someone with a background in the history of science and technology, it's a bad idea.
Yeah. And so, similarly... Oh, I've got a chest. There we go. Got it. I pulled up a chest in the thing. If I also catch the fish, I'll be able to open that chest.
Oh.
Yeah.
It is quite tricky the way the fish jumps around.
It is, and I can't play the fishing game on the laptop. I have to be on the desktop or tablet to play this. I've never been good at the fishing game on the laptop.
Yeah, this one's
And
gonna go away.
what did I find? Oh, I found bait.
Oh.
Interesting.
I found trash. Oh, and I found more trash. Oh, Joja Cola. Oh my. And yeah, let's see. Now,
There we go.
I mean, and this is topical, and we talked a little bit about this before the start of the show. Is that like whale sound or something? I hear it every now and then. Noise.
Probably the seagulls.
Oh, okay. You know, like social media and job searching. Like, I don't know about you, but until it started imploding for reasons, I actually made a lot of interesting professional connections on Twitter.
Me as well. And in fact, when I came here to TRU, a lot of the people in my faculty actually already knew of me through Twitter. Like people that I had interacted with.
Yeah, I've been at library conferences where they're like, "Oh, you're Ben from Twitter." It's like, yes, that is where I lived.
As my wife likes to call it, a moderately famous in an incredibly niche area. Mostly meaning that there's like 40 people who happen to know who I am, but they all happen to show up at the same thing now and then.
Yeah. That's the thing. And so actually, I know when I interviewed for my position here, I actually knew people in common that I first met through Twitter, and they were in a position to be like, oh yeah, no, like there's a lot of good people at that library. Like I know this person and that person, and they're like, you know, it's a good home. It'll likely be a good home for you since I know something about you and all that. So yeah. I know a lot of librarians are going on Mastodon now too. There's even a librarian's instance specifically.
Okay, I tried Mastodon and it isn't what I'm looking for.
And that's fair. It's not a Twitter replacement. It's its own kind of thing. It's like, you know, vegetarian food can be really good, but if they're just trying to make it replace meat, you might be disappointed.
Exactly. Yep. Okay, so after your next one, we're probably going to want to head back towards town so that we can sell the fish that we've caught.
Sounds good.
So there's one of the chests that you've seen there.
I just didn't think I could get it and the fish at the same time.
No, probably not.
Phew, let's go back. Oh yeah. Let's see now. So yeah, so you also mentioned like you had some farming stories. Like what is your farming kind of background?
Yeah, so I grew up in Abbotsford, and previous to that in Winkler, Manitoba.
Okay.
Yeah, and so both of them are farming towns, and Abbotsford is very well known for the berries. And so, of course, like everybody else there, I grew up doing berry picking during a lot of summers.
Stuff. I was actually doing that this last summer. The blueberry bushes are so fecund. I didn't fully appreciate just how many blueberries you can get from a single blueberry bush. We were picking them like every day. And
Exactly. There we go. Oh, I found bait. I don't have a fishing rod that can use bait yet, but I have bait.
Let's see, do we have any seeds to plant?
We don't, and it looks like it's too late to buy new ones.
Oh yeah,
so I think we'll...
I have some mixed seeds, but yeah. It's not bad.
Oh, I do have some energy left, so I think I'm going to go chop down some trees.
Sure.
Yeah, so with social media, I think at this point of social media's sphere, everybody's aware of not saying, don't be stupid on social media while you're looking for work. Because even if they don't Google your name, sometime before they hire you, or within the first couple weeks when you are still on probation, they will.
Yeah. Save that for Tumblr.
Yep.
And also, like LinkedIn is a funny one because I think, as I understand it, some industries do use it a lot. I have one, but it's just kind of perfunctory. It's like, okay, so that you can look me up on LinkedIn and I can direct you to internet places where I'm more active. But
if they had a better way of including publications and projects and ratings and things like that, I think more academics would be on Twitter or on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And I think that LinkedIn is really good, and I've got a LinkedIn, and but I've never used it for the discussion portion. Right? I've never really used the posting, other than posting the occasional work-related update. But very rare.
It feels so hyper corporate to me that I'm afraid to say anything that might reveal a trace of personality, to be entirely frank.
And that's the thing, right? Like when I'm on um, Twitter, it's a very different world,
Yeah,
right?
I know a lot of librarians that are very frank in that space. Though I also know folks who have been reprimanded by their employers for being too frank on Twitter.
Yes.
But still, I think I appreciate I used to until the end times came. I appreciate how frank people can be, because that is something I value even in my work and spaces, is like, and I could get a better sense of, issues in an industry, because they're not all, I feel like there's a lot of pressure in like LinkedIn to only say positive things about everything. Hey, farming bonus. And I got a scarecrow recipe. Oh.
Ah, that's wonderful. Oh, we made a lot of money last night.
Oh, cool.
So we should probably go and get more seeds, but they don't open until 9.
Okay. It's also interesting, like, the time management aspect of this game.
Yes. Oh, and it's another rainy day.
Build a coop, make a scarecrow. Getting started.
I need coal, fiber, and wood. I think I can make that scarecrow, actually.
Introductions. Oh, 10 of 28 people greeted. Oop. You working on the scarecrow there?
Yeah, and then you'll need to make a scarecrow as well, so I'll put the stuff back into the...
Okay.
There you go.
Oop. So interesting. So yeah, so berry picking, any particular kind of berries?
Mostly blueberries, and also raspberries.
Okay.
Yeah, and then of course, not for employment, but getting blackberries, and I love picking blackberries.
Oh, cool. I know a number of different cultivars of, I think, strawberry were actually developed in an agricultural research station in Kentville, Nova Scotia, which I was surprised because I just started doing research for my friend for their farm.
Okay, so let's wander over to Pierre's, and we should be able to go and get some more seeds. So now we should be able... let's see, we need to craft a furnace still.
Okay.
And that takes a lot of copper ore, so we're not going to get that until we're able to get into the mining area.
Wait, do you need to prepare the land to put down? Oh no, it's just closer to me. There you go. All right, following you now. I was just dancing to the scarecrow. Oop. Yeah. So my background, I grew up in the Annapolis Valley of Nova Scotia. And just a lot of farms around there. I wasn't super farmy, admittedly. Like my family had a plot that they worked, but it was it was a hobby thing. It wasn't like to sell or anything. Sorry, where are we going?
At Pierre's farm or Pierre's store.
Good stuff.
Yeah. They'll open at 9, which is
almost now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I knew some of my family were in all sorts of different trades, like fishing and stuff. I had an uncle in come on. Lobster fisheries. Yarmouth, Nova Scotia. There we go.
Yeah.
And any particular good cash crops? Cauliflower, potatoes?
Let's see. Well, one things that so the two best ones are the ones that produce after or continue producing after. So like beans. Okay. So I'm gonna buy 5 beans.
Okay.
And then the other one is things that go quickly. So that's going to be potatoes and parsnips are going to be the other best ones.
Well, I just had some baked potatoes for supper, so I'll pick myself up some of those.
Okay, yeah, get like 10 of those.
Oof, 10 acquired.
There we go, and I've picked up some cauliflower seeds. I'm going to get a few more. There we go, some more parsnips.
Yeah, but
okay, that should be good.
My friend was a farmer like most of his entire life, and I did help him out for a day, and I was like, oh, this is how I die. I feel like a lot of folks who play Stardew Valley think that, oh, this is fun and easy, and I mean, we all kind of wish we could run off, with our commune, and, but it's incredibly physical.
I mean, I worked at a plant nursery for 2 weeks, and it was literally the worst job for me ever. By the end of it, I was just like, no, this is not me. I'm not going to be able to do this. There are people for whom that is a relaxing thing, and for me, it just meant 8 hours of being in my own head.
Yeah.
And not in a good way.
Fair and valid. Yeah. No, I struggle being, whenever anything makes me aware of my body, usually that's a bad time, which is not the best for being a farmer. But it's neat some of the stuff that it gets up to, and there's the varieties. And I liked researching different like cultivars and their growing conditions. More like, again, I'm a very theoretical farmer in that regard.
Yes,
Seeing
that makes sense.
like how far apart do they need to be spread, and like what are the soil conditions that they might be having struggle with. With tomatoes particularly, if they're like inconsistently watered, for instance, they'll get this white crusty thing on the base of them. And kind of sorting out, like, is this a nutritional issue or no? Okay, this was a watering issue. It was a particular, just like almost like tech support troubleshooting, but for growing things.
Okay, why don't we go and do some fishing for the next
good.
couple hours, for the last couple hours here?
Sounds good. Yeah, my partner's has a lot more of a green sense than I do. They grow all sorts of stuff, but they're in a city, so it's all indoor growing for them. I have. No, that's not entirely true. They did help run their schools, like the community farm.
Okay. Yeah, but that's another thing that's important for students to figure out is both what they are good at, what are things that they can do over and over and over again. Right? How much repetition do you need in your job? How much variety do you need in your job? And these are important things to figure out while you're in university, right? Like trying out a lot of different jobs while you're in university is really helpful.
And it's a lot easier to do than when you're out of university.
Yes.
When you're actively like needing that money to survive, it's harder to be experimental in a lot of instances.
That is very true, yeah. And there's a lot of jobs that people can do and enjoy doing, but then they get to a point where they're just done, right?
Yeah.
And that's fine. It's completely okay to change, right? Like I started out as a high school teacher.
Okay. And that's a healthy approach, right? Like I think like a lot of the narratives around that can be like, well, you failed as this, so you have to become something else, and that doesn't do anyone any favors.
Exactly, and it's really common for people to associate with their careers. Oh wow, this fish is really fast.
Wow.
I'm not going to get that.
Yeah, I can see it's just struggling. The icon there.
Yeah, so it's this happens a lot with professional careers. Like a lot of police do this, where they really connect with the concept of being that kind of person, that kind of job.
Yeah.
And what happens at the end when you're done? So what happens when you retire or when you're injured and can't do that anymore?
Then your identity goes.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of research around what happens there, but really a lot of what I talk about with students is about being flexible and being okay with changing, being okay with not always doing that thing, that you don't have to be the thing you originally wanted to be.
Honestly, I still struggle with that myself, honestly, as someone who was more of like a conventional academic, and for whom librarianship is my second career. But, yeah, no, that is a healthy approach. Cool. But, yeah. So here, question. Do you have any particular kind of advising for students who are with disabilities, or students from different kind of ethnic backgrounds or whatnot? Because I do know soggy.
Yeah, we do actually.
Because I do know those play factors in like what your professional landscape looks like. Unfortunately, there's still a lot of racism, ableism, sexism in different fields, and some fields are better for it, some fields are worse. So I imagine there's a lot of personalization of thought that needs to go into that kind of advising.
There is, yes. And so we actually have two of our faculty members in the department. One of them focuses on accessibility in the workplace.
Okay.
And that's Jennifer Mai. And then there's Roblyn Davey, who works exclusively with Indigenous students.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, so the two of them are amazing. And so students who need that, or who would like that more specific support, can do that. So it is 5 o'clock, so we should probably head back to the camp then.
All right.
So back to the...
Well, I'll just finish up with this fish one way or the other. It seems nice and slow. It's on my level. There we go. Gotcha. Smallmouth bass.
There you go.
There we go. Well, that's good to know, because it is a different world in some ways, and like not everyone has the same just personal background to like relate to like the challenges.
Yeah.
One of the things that I do is I host a Discord server for neurodivergent clam workers. Where we kind of talk about that, and we're going to be having a conference here in the summer, virtual.
Okay.
Called Neuroglamorous Canada, because I'm clever that way. So those can be things. There are like student groups too for like, like students looking for jobs in certain industries and fields too is another thing to check out.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So yeah,
Yeah.
we're running a little bit close to time. I was just wondering if there was any kind of like any other stuff you particularly wanted to talk about before we. Hmm.
I think the big thing is when students have that moment of, is this what I should be doing?
Hmm.
Or even at the end of a tough semester of, should I be here? Come talk to us.
Hmm.
Right? Book a meeting with us. You book online. The meetings with me are online as well, and it's an opportunity um, to talk with somebody else who is going to walk through a lot of stuff with you and give you some support and talk about options.
Hmm.
So help you see, okay, well, this is one path, or this is what it could look like down that path. Um, and often we'll talk about things where, especially for students who had a really hard time with the class, they might come talk to us and we'll talk about, okay, well, the thing you were doing in that class isn't something you do after you're out of university.
Hmm. Yeah.
Right? It's something that you're
World.
doing in university, but once you're out of university, your career path doesn't really involve it anymore. So this is a hurdle to get over. Versus the thing you did in that class is the thing you're going to do every single day. And is this it was hard, but once I learn it, it'll be great? Or is this if I have to do this every day, I'm going to have a really, really bad time?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's a great time for people to come talk with us because we're able to help them sort of step back and get see the forest for the trees.
Yeah.
And
Perspective. It helps
yeah,
sort out your perspective on it. Cool.
exactly.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
So yeah. So I guess just gonna wind down a bit now. One other announcement I forgot to make at the start. This Thursday is the long night against procrastination from 5:30 until 11:30. We have a whole bunch of workshops, wellness workshops, therapy dogs, free food, things unpacking citation formats and academic authority and those sorts of things. The True Suit Gaming Club, I also just wanted to give them a shout out because they will have a room for board games and I think a few video games. I'll be lending them my copy of Boss Monster, which I have here, which if you don't know kind of reproduces kind of the 8-bit kind of like aesthetic where you're pretending to be the end boss in a video game and you're trying to compete with the other end bosses to lure hapless adventurers to your dungeon. So good wholesome content. But yeah, otherwise, thank you everyone for coming out. I hope the rest of the evening is kind for you. And Noah, thank you so much for speaking tonight.
Well, thank you so much for having me over, and I've added the link to CEL into the chat. It's literally just tru.ca/CEL. At the top of it is the link to booking an appointment, and that is called Career Connections. That's also where students can look for part-time jobs, on-campus jobs, off-campus jobs. We get a lot of different postings there.
Cool, yeah, and I will send me that, and I'll also throw that into the YouTube video of this.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Well, and again, thanks everyone. I hope the rest of the night goes glowingly for you. Cheers.